Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked against both Bonfim brothers. I'm here to talk about UFC 283. It was a pretty damn good event, a lot of highlights, 15 fights, which is fucking awesome. I'm going to start at the top. Jamal Hill retires Glover Teixeira. It really sucked the life out of the fucking crowd, that's for sure. But, it was easy to accept it because we had 25 minutes to get used to it. Jamal Hill really beat Glover Teixeira down, and it was an impressive performance because it wasn't a complete shutout. In fact, I expected Jamal Hill to be winning until Glover hit those takedowns in the middle of a fight, in which Jamal had exerted himself. And that's exactly what happened. And Glover cut right through his guard immediately every time he got him down. And from there, Jamal Hill kept his composure. I thought he'd be chewed up on the ground, but he kept himself safe. Glover was able to pass every time, but Jamal didn't let him threaten, kept himself safe from, Glover's game, which is primarily ground and pound or arm triangle chokes, but he knows everything anyway. And I thought Jamal Hill, the fact that he was taken down in round 2 like that, and in round 5, taken down and mounted, was very impressive that he survived that, even though Glover Teixeira was half dead by the time round 5 rolled around. Don't think I'm not aware of that. Great fucking fight overall. Because of those few moments Glover had, could be considered a back and forth fight. But overall, what we saw was dominance. We all know that. Jamal Hill beat Glover Teixeira's head for 25 minutes. Beat his body too, but really smashed him. And I was waiting for Glover to drop, but Glover just kept taking those shots. And let me say, I'm happy that Glover retired because there's no reason to doubt his durability in his next fight. Why should he go in there and keep fighting like this when he's 43 years old? It's just not smart. I was worried about him last night. I don't know if I would have stopped the fight or whatever, but still, it was tough to watch. Tough to watch Glover get beaten up like that. In the moment, you have it in your head, well, he could always get him down and get him out of there. And he could have. And he kept reminding us of that. But overall, it was just too much. This was a youngster that had a lot of physical advantages, and Glover was too old and slow to make his shit work for him. And Jamal Hill, like I said, I really respect his composure as well. It's not just Glover Teixeira being slow and old. Jamal Hill, yeah, turns out he's not garbage on the ground. And I know he was taken down and mounted immediately. But again, the fact that he wasn't finished in those moments shows he's got something there. And he hasn't shown much on the ground. We've seen him here and there. But, and look, he's not going to be insisting on making too many of his fights a grappling match anyway. So there's that. But he was prepared for Glover here. If you watch him, the countdown episode, he shows it. He was specifically dealing with some jiu-jitsu guy in a rash guard, mounting him. And that's what he was training. So, hats off to him, although I'm not going to take my fucking hat off, because I want to keep my viewers. But for Glover Teixeira, it sucks. Glover Teixeira, he is a living legend, and he and Shogun both retire on the same night, which is insane. Both of those guys started fighting in 2002. 2002. 21 fucking years. And the majority of it at the highest level, certainly for Shogun. And look, Glover Teixeira, he goes out on top. He goes out on top. I know he's not the champion, of course, but he goes out in 2 5-round wars against the best of the division today. And he did that at 43 years old. Fucking insane, his career, from beginning to end, but certainly the end was just phenomenal. And I'm glad Glover Teixeira said he's too tough for his own good, because that's exactly what everybody was thinking. Why should you doubt his durability in his next fight? He's just going to go out there, and I'm not saying he's going to lose, and look, on a coin flip, Jan Blachowicz could be the champion right now. And I feel like that alone would keep Glover hunting for the title, because he knows that's a favorable matchup. But I'm glad he's retiring, because, there's a few guys between him and the title at this point, and it's just not worth it. He is too tough for his own good. And Jamal Hill, I don't know who he's fighting next. Yuri Prochazka, if it's possible, of course. But if not, maybe Ankalaev or fucking whoever. But he's definitely a really tough problem for anybody. And it's going to be awesome seeing him in title fights. Ankalaev, Yuri Prohashka. These guys are guys I really trust to fight hard for 5 rounds. And now I can say the same for Jamal Hill. So I can't wait for his next title fight. All right. Figueiredo Moreno. Moreno just dominated pretty much here. It wasn't quite as dominant as the second fight. I can't say that Figueiredo didn't show up, which, he didn't show up for the second fight. The striking disparity was like 10-1, 7-1 or something in that fight. And in this one, it was like 2-1, which is still dominance, and Moreno was there with the takedowns. I thought that was the big difference in this one. He was dominant with his wrestling, and he didn't need to knock him down to weaken him or anything. He just started dominating from the get-go, from almost literally the get-go, fucking 5 seconds into the fight. So, look, it did end with some bullshit, in my opinion, or whatever, the punch to the eye or whatever. Not that it's bullshit, he punched him. It's a legitimate victory, but I know, whatever, every fighter wants to land on the chin or the temple and knock someone silly. But shit happens, like Rico Rodriguez versus Randy Couture. And both Rico and Brandon Moreno were comfortably winning those fights. Well, Rico, whatever, he was about to be comfortably winning that fight. But you guys know how it goes. Whatever, they can't control this shit, and he punched him right in the eye socket. It sucks. It clearly did a lot of damage, but it wasn't intentional. Unlike the heel strike that Figueiredo landed at the end of round 1 on the ground, when they were in the 50-50 position. But, yeah, look, Moreno's show. Moreno kicked ass. He was clearly on his way to winning the title. And I know Figueiredo carries power, and he's a very dangerous guy, and could easily steal rounds, but he had already lost 3 rounds, in my opinion. I have to rewatch the fight. I don't know. Apparently, every judge gave Figueiredo round 2, I think. I don't know. And he had a good round there, but in general, I thought Moreno won rounds 1 and 2 without, paying too much attention to the scoring. But anyway, Figueiredo is going to move to 135, which I don't know. Being 35 years old, now moving up, giving up a lot of your advantages, it could suck for him, But I know one thing that's got to suck even worse is the weight cut, and that's why he's trying to avoid it. He never looks good weighing in. Has that shitty look, but he's done it for so long, and I know he's failed here and there, whatever, but I don't think that was really it. It could be the reason for his loss here, but I do think Brandon Moreno is just in his prime. He's been sharpening his skills, and a whole year has passed where Figueiredo hasn't fought, and Moreno has, even though it was just once. He's a sharper guy in his prime, and he's only getting better. And, even though I picked Figueiredo to win, and I was sure he would, it makes sense that Moreno has passed him by at 30 years old or whatever. He's 5 years younger. Great win. I do wish the ending was different. I'm sure he does too, but still, the right guy won. So, sucks for Figueiredo, but we'll see what happens with him. Hopefully he gets the ball rolling right away because he's not getting any younger. Neil Magny versus Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns went through him. Like I said, if there's one fight I think it could look similar to if he gets the finish, it's the RDA fight. And I'm sure you were all thinking a somewhat similar thing. And this was similar. It was eerily similar. But Gilbert Burns, the big difference is he struck his way in, cornered Neil Magny, and ripped him to the floor instead of catching a kick or whatever. RDA crashed into him to get him down. But Gilbert Burns essentially went right through Neil Magny. And I expected Gilbert to have a strong first round, but I thought if Neil's not able to be exposed on the ground, he would do better in rounds 2 and 3. So my only bet was on Neil Magny by decision in that one, and it was a fucking waste of money. Gilbert Burns cut right through him, and the biggest gap in their skill set was the jiu-jitsu, and he found that hole pretty early. Sucks for Neil Magny, but I have to say, and not just as a Magny guy, but just, what I think is somewhat objectively, doesn't really hurt his stock. Yeah, he's lost to everybody above him, and he's beaten everybody below him. Everybody, Neil Magny is still in that realm where he can fight these top guys, And I don't think anything is going to get him to a title shot. There's so many guys above him now. Like I said, he's lost to a bunch of them. But still, Neil Magny's a guy with a high profile, and he's better than what he showed against Gilbert Burns, certainly. You know, a few guys have run through Neil, but it doesn't happen often. And, I still think he's a serious test for a lot of top fighters. For Gilbert Burns, look, he had a lot of momentum coming into this fight, especially after the fight against Khamzat Chimaev. Gilbert Burns probably could main event a fight night card right now, certainly if it's against Colby Covington, which he said he wants to do the Ultimate Fighter with Colby. That would be interesting. That would be a pretty damn cool rivalry. But either way, can't wait to see Gilbert Burns fight anybody. In my opinion, he's still in the title picture. And in my opinion, he's, one of the most exciting fighters going right now. So, cool win for Gilbert. Very few guys have run right through Neil Magny like that, and he's got that top-notch skill set where he was able to get it done. Jessica Andrade took out Lauren Murphy. This was one where, I knew Lauren Murphy had toughness, and I said it's her defining trait, and it's why she's one of the only girls where I can't count on Andrade getting the finish. Andrade via decision was actually my pick, but I didn't bet on it because I can't trust anybody to go to the decision, make the distance in a losing effort against Andrade because she's so fucking powerful. And all of that was evident. But, man, that fight could have been stopped. I did think it could have very easily been stopped. I thought it should have been stopped. I don't think it's something where you should blame the ref. And I don't even think it's something where you should blame the corner. Look, she could have went into a fucking coma and died or some shit, but I still wouldn't blame the corner. This is a fucking, weird sport. It's like fucking war and whatever. They're going to war and they have this mentality and, they've studied this fight. Oh, she's weak and whatever, cardio, blah, 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 whatever they got in their fucking heads. You can't blame anybody for not stopping a fight, in my opinion, not too harshly. But if you are going to blame anybody, and if you can blame anybody, really, it's the corner, not the ref. The referee is too busy, I don't know, studying his own shit, whatever the hell he's trained to do. My point is one person that's supposed to feel compassion and sympathy and empathy and whatever, and think on your behalf and look out for your best interests, and it's your corner. So if you're going to blame anybody, blame the corner, but don't blame the referee. But look, I thought it should have been stopped. I would have stopped it. Again, I wouldn't blame her corner, but I would have stopped it. I was saying, really? She's still going, huh? Maybe she's got a big uppercut waiting for Andrade or whatever. But this was just an ugly beating. Andrade never stopped throwing. She was beating Lauren's face in. And Lauren Murphy, to her credit, kept herself in there, threatening with takedowns, threatening with counter strikes, although to no avail, really. She did not want to be in the pocket at all. And it was a tough loss, one of the toughest losses I've ever had to watch, to be honest. And I did think it was ironic that Lauren Murphy said, like a few months out, I'm going to get in her fucking face and get her respect right away. That was like her quote. Maybe the fucking was before respect instead of face or whatever. But that was her quote. It was an intense quote about getting her respect right away. And then I noticed like a minute and a half into the fight, Cormier was like, she's got to do something to get her respect. I mean, this is not going well. And it didn't get any better. Really tough loss for Lauren Murphy, but really valiant effort, even though I don't even know if she landed anything, but still a valiant effort in just not going away. And for Jessica Andrade, she did what she needed to do. I'm almost surprised she didn't get Lauren Murphy out of there, but I'm certainly not trying to knock her. That was just incredible. Just pure offense for 15 minutes. Even though it wasn't much of a fight, it was still entertaining and, cool to watch. Paul Craig, Johnny Walker versus Paul Craig, as it will now be known. Johnny Walker is just a dangerous guy. He's and he's a very explosive guy, and I thought he was trying to get away from that after they circled around and didn't throw even a feint for like 3.5 minutes. But once things opened up, it, in my opinion, was just a matter of time. I've always considered Paul Craig a little susceptible to getting knocked out, a little chinny in a different way. But and Johnny Walker is so deadly, and he's extra long. Where I really thought if he was going to reach Paul Craig, it would be like on the ground. I know they were, whatever, halfway there, but still, Paul Craig got inside and left his head open, hugging on a leg, and Johnny Walker made him pay. Made him pay with these big long strikes. He's got such a long reach, and he just smashed Paul Craig in that first moment he was able to. So, violent finish for Johnny Walker, another first round finish, as he's accustomed to. And even though it hasn't happened in a while, another first round loss for Paul Craig, first round knockout loss. Really shitty for him because, like I said, even though I picked Johnny Walker and bet on him to win by round one knockout, I'm a Paul Craig guy. Aside from Glover Teixeira and Shogun, I'd probably root for Paul Craig over anybody in the light heavyweight division. Johnny, he got knocked out by the champion, Jamal Hill. He did say he's looking to be the champ or the double champ, whatever. He went on some big rant. I don't know about either one of those prospects there, but still, being a light heavyweight champ is not impossible, and he's a very exciting guy, but look, he did what he was supposed to do here. I do have my questions about Johnny Walker's, chin and his own defensive holes there, but offense, there's no question about it. He's fucking deadly, and he gave us an awesome, violent show. First round finish. Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Shogun. That's the one. I thought that said Shamil. Shogun. Yeah, Ior Potieria. I kept saying Pretoria or whatever. Potieria versus Shogun, who Shogun I thought was fighting well, to be honest, until he couldn't handle it. He's too fragile. He's too old and fragile. I did think if he lost, it would look like this. But still, I thought if he was winning, the first round would have looked like that. Shogun was keeping himself safe, high guard, and countering with big hooks, and he was doing so somewhat effectively. But then Ihor really started opening up at the second half of the round. And, when you open up, you increase the odds of landing a strike. And you increase the odds of landing a strike on a 41-year-old who is, halfway out. This is his retirement fight, and he has a potentially compromised chin and temple and whatever. You're increasing your odds of getting a finish. And that's what happened. He got him out of there. Really sucked for Shogun to lose like that because, again, I thought this was one of the few winnable fights in the division. But Ihor Pretoria, even though he's largely a can crusher, he still knows how to crush shit. And he got it done, pure offense, and, some nice physical advantages too. But once he started landing those straight punches, Shogun was just trapped. And then Shogun got clipped inside, right on the top of the head, I think, and crumbled. So that sucked. Really shitty way for Shogun to retire. But still, it was cool because everybody was there for him. They knew he poured his heart out, and there were tribute videos and all the Brazilian fighters hugging and kissing him. And he was still celebrated. And until Glover Teixeira retired at the very end, this was Shogun's night. In the end, it's everybody's night. Jose Aldo's night, whoever's night. But really sucks that Shogun lost because, again, I had convinced myself this was one of the only winnable matchups for him. As for Ihor Pretoria, afterwards did some douchebag dance. And then I I didn't read his comments or hear his comments, but I know he expressed that he regretted that. I don't know. If it was me and I beat a guy like Shogun, I would get on the microphone and try to just be gracious, and just say, look, I beat this guy at the end of his career. If I fought him in his prime, I'd be scared shitless. Congratulations on your career and whatever, and let everybody else call you humble. But when you have that opportunity to express some virtues and whatever, and you go the other way with a douchebag dance, it's going to rub people the wrong way. But whatever. These guys just fought in a fucking cage. He's got adrenaline pumping. I'm not going to hold it against him. Bruno Ferreira knocks out RoboCop. God damn it. Gregory Rodriguez. Like I said, I had a little doubt about his chin. He's been knocked out twice, and they were both knockouts. His first loss to Bruno Lopez, I don't know. And his last loss to Jordan Wright, or, his last knockout loss to Jordan Wright. Between those two and the fact that we've seen him rocked on occasion, I did have doubts about his chin. And my only bet for the fight, as you know, was Bruno Ferreira by first round knockout, which I did add another bet because they're fucking stupid. Bruno Ferreira by round one flat was at higher odds, plus 750 instead of plus 650. So whatever, I got lucky and won $70. But Bruno Ferreira didn't get lucky. That guy, he much like the Cody Stamann fight and whatever. He's the shorter guy, giving up a lot of reach, but he's the more explosive guy, and he's able to close the distance. And he looked like the fight was getting away from him towards the first round, if I'm being honest. And I did pick RoboCop to get a second round knockout after he starts to slow him down. And I thought it was going exactly the way I'd predicted it. And then Bruno Ferreira mixed some things up, did some little shuffle and some feints, and cracked him with a big left straight that he wasn't expecting. And boom, out went his lights. So that's a gigantic debut for Bruno Ferreira. Really gigantic debut. Gregory Rodriguez has already beaten some of the best, not best fighters, but you know, some of the really good fighters inside the division. And to make your debut like that with only 10 fights, I'm not saying he steps over everybody that that Gregory Rodriguez has stepped over, but yeah, he's not some normal debutant. That's not some normal debut victory. Tough loss for RoboCop. I hope moving forward he, protects himself and whatever. But like I say, in a lot of cases, I think if you were to tell me he suffers 5 losses in the next few years, at least 2 of them are knockouts, if not 5. Next up, Thiago Moises takes on Mel Costa. And by the way, I forgot to upload this video, but I picked Thiago Moises to win a decision, so I'm kind of glad I didn't. But either way, in general, it went about the way I expected it to. I just didn't think he would get the finish. But Thiago Moises is really good on the ground, and he took over the fight more quickly than I expected to. And Melk was still fighting well, but, in the end, he started slowing down in the middle of the round 2, and Thiago's takedowns only came more easily as the fight went on, and on the ground, he was just suffocating. So, tough debut for Melk Costa, and Thiago Moises did what he needed to do. That guy, he's only lost to really good fighters, really, really good fighters, and he's still got a high ceiling. He's in his mid-20s, so late 20s, I don't know, 27, I think. Gabriel Bonfim takes out Mounir Lazzez. Boy, do I know how to call this shit, huh? Let's see. Yeah, Gabriel Bonfim, he is the dangerous, dynamic submission artist. And where I thought he would run into trouble in this fight was winning the wrestling battle against Mounir Lazzez. And then on the feet, I thought Mounir, even though Gabriel's a really good striker, both Bonfim brothers are, and I'm even more convinced now, but I thought Mounir would open up and generally win on the kickboxing front down the stretch. And Gabriel Bonfim didn't win the wrestling battle, but what he showed is you can make up for wrestling if you're that dangerous with submissions and you're an opportunistic submission artist. And that's what he is. They clinched up. He found one opportunity for a guillotine, locked it up, and got the fight to the ground, where if Mounir Lazzez popped his head out, Bonfim still would have had him down in the full mount, actually. But he didn't need to because he's got such a good grip, such a good, choke, and he got him out of there. Tough loss for Mounir Lazzez. He's 35 now, whatever he is, 2-2 in the octagon. It's a shitty loss for him, but Gabriel Bonfim is really good. And as of now, he's on track to be the best fighter of all fucking time. So I wouldn't hang my head if I was Mounir Lazzez. Not that he's got too much time to do anything. He's got to get going, if he's 35 years old. But Gabriel Bonfim, the sky's the limit. He's the younger guy. I think he's 25 years old. And, I mean, even though his brother got the better finish, I feel like there's still more hype with Gabriel. And he delivered and then some. Just a first-round sub over a guy that I think is really good, Mounir Lazzez. Not so much in the submission realm, but overall as a fighter, I think he's really good. And Bonfim found that hole where no one else could. So, great win for Bonfim. Jailton Almeida comes out, eats a big punch, which I was happy to see, even though I didn't bet on Shamil Abdurakhimov. But Jailton Almeida then dominated him. He ate a big punch, took him down, and dominated him. It was essentially kind of like the Curtis Blades fight, but it was really like the Curtis Blades fight, but more advancing positionally from Jailton Almeida. I did think he was controlling, really good at controlling that mount. I remember he got him down, got the full mount, and Shamil bucked early on, and then it seemed like Jailton was not trying to sit on his chest. You know, he was like I don't even know what you call it, but he was careful about how he was distributing his weight in that first round. And then once he felt that Shamil was tired, he just sat down on him and started going at him with the offense at the end of round one, and then got him down in round two and just smashed him. It was a great win for Jailton Almeida. He, like I said, I thought the TKO was more likely than the submission, just based on the defense of Shamil as opposed to the offense of Jailton, which would indicate submission. And the TKO hit. You know, round two, I had a sprinkle. Round one was my primary sprinkle, but round two was another sprinkle, and, worked out. Jailton Almeida is a killer. He's probably going to get a lot of his victories from the full mount to the back mount. And I do think most of them will be submission, but, push comes to shove, he can just smash it. That guy, the sky's still the limit. He could be the best fucking fighter of all time, despite having the two losses. And I just can't wait to see him fight again. Put him in there quickly. I know he wasn't too banged up. And just let me see that guy fight anyone. Shamil Abdurakhimov, I don't think he retired officially, but it wouldn't surprise me certainly if he did. I think he knew he was up against it here. We've seen him up against some really good competition, but this was an eye-opening loss. Like I said, this guy looks like Curtis Blades, so with better jiu-jitsu. So great win for Jailton Almeida. Tough loss for Shamil. If he retires, thank you for the memories. Thank you for the entertainment. But one guy moves forward, and it's Jailton. Cody Stamann beats Luan Lacerda. This was a pretty close fight, actually. Pretty close fight. I did think Stamann won. Obviously not round three, but I thought he generally got the better of Luan Lacerda. And I thought it was pretty clear early on that reach wasn't going to be a factor. Not a big factor anyway. Luan was still landing good strikes, especially kicks. A lot of kicks in round one. But Cody Stamann was beating him to the punch consistently. And, for a guy that was giving up, whatever, like a foot of reach, he really closed the distance with that athleticism and that agility. So he is a wrestle boxer, and he used his athleticism to make this a wrestle boxer fight for at least 2 rounds that he was able to. And I thought he clearly won. Not everybody did. I see MMA Decisions has it split, but Cody Stamann, I thought, won the first 2 rounds. He's a really tough guy to wrangle and a really tough guy to outpoint on the feet. He's shorter. He's got some things working against him, but he's a damn good boxer. I know he's a wrestler first and foremost, but he's a damn good boxer. So, good win for Cody Stamann. He did what he needed to do. And even though the fight was closer than it appears on paper, was that? I think that was unanimous. Whatever. Either way, Cody did what he needed to do and he moves forward. Luan Lacerda fared very well in his debut against a very tough guy, the kind of guy who's supposed to spoil a debut like this. And again, even though it was spoiled, Luan Lacerda, he performed very well, and I'm excited to see him fight moving forward. He's definitely more of a finisher, but, even coming close to winning a decision against a guy like Cody Stamann, it's incredibly impressive. Ismael Bonfim takes out Terrence McKinney. This was just a fucking beautiful knockout. One of the most beautiful knockouts I've ever seen. Terrence McKinney, I picked to win this fight, and I expected him to win. But I expected him, like I said, to reconcile himself with his own nature, be the fucking monster in round one. And he didn't do that. He seemed like he was trying to mitigate mistakes, which I know other, fighters have to do. They have to recognize, I have a weak gas tank. Whatever. I remember Andre Prochowski saying, when he got into the UFC, the 7-minute mark is where I fall apart every time. And then he started getting round 3 submissions and shit. And he turned a corner there. But look, Terrence McKinney is one of those guys who's probably better off being a guy who blitzes because he's got so many physical advantages. And he didn't make use of it early on. I thought he tried to use his athleticism in one realm, wrestling, which is his strongest base. It is his base. but he wasn't able to win the wrestling battle. Ismail Bonfim really impressed me defensively against a fresh Terrence McKinney. And McKinney also didn't make anything work for him on the feet, on the ground. There was nothing. Ismail was staying tight defensively, throwing really good hands. And then in round two, after sucking some of the life out of Terrence by defending his takedowns and making him work, he just started opening up and got him against the cage and just teed off on him to set him up on a tee, and boom, knocked him out with the big fucking flying knee. It was beautiful. Sucked watching Terrence, go head first like that, but that was an awesome victory, a highlight. Made the crowd come alive. I feel like it was the highlight of the night, all things considered. And McKinney, like I said, coming into the fight, he's breakable. He's breakable. I don't trust his durability, his cardio, this and that, and like every weakness you can speculate on, I feel like we saw in that fight. And it is why, again, not to toot my own horn, but that's one of the spots that helped me profit last night. Is my pick was McKinney, but my hedges were on Bonfim, especially winning by round 2 knockout. That was the one that I loved, and at 7-1, 7-1 at 10-1, 950. No, yeah, plus 950. It paid off and then some. McKinney, it's just he's not a durable guy in my opinion. I'm even more sure of that now. And with the cardio and his front runner style, it just seems like when he loses, it's always going to look somewhat similar to that. And that really did look a lot like his fight with Sean Woodson. It was a little different, but damn close, at least 75% similar. So it sucks for him because he is such an action fighter, and he's still going to be around in the UFC, but he's got to protect himself because I don't, trust his chin. I don't think he should either. As for Ismail Bonfim, he's a well-rounded guy, boxer first and foremost, but to get a knockout like that, especially with a flying knee, man, this guy's got a lot of hype now. Like I said, his brother's the more hyped fighter, and Ismail is 2 years older, but the sky's still the limit with Ismail. This guy is very fucking good. Now he's got a record of 19-3, and with a debut like that, man, I expect a high placement on whatever card he's on next, and I can't fucking wait for it. Warlley Alves, Nicholas Dalby. This fight I got right on paper, exactly right on paper, but if you watch my video, you'll know I'm a fucking idiot because I got it wrong pretty much exactly. I said Dalby would win round 3 and Warlley would win round 1, and pretty much the opposite happened. I still think Dalby won the decision. Dalby definitely outboxed him and outworked him. He was really, in general, outworking him. And then Warlley came alive a little bit at round 3. But Nicholas, I thought, took away a lot of Warlley's strengths by just coming out. I think it was a deliberate tactic to come out and blitz him in round 1, really just work him over. And he did. He was working really hard, hurt Alves a little bit, and really just took his energy in round 1, slowed the fight down. I thought he clearly won round 2, and then round 3, Warlley made it a little closer. But really close fight. It was a battle either way, and I thought the decision went the right way. Nicholas Dalby's a hustler, and I thought he did a little bit better over the course of 15 minutes. But still, Warlley Alves, a guy whose cardio I knocked and said it's responsible for the majority of his losses, it's a nice feather in his cap, having performed like that in round 3. Zara Fairn and Josiane Nunes. This fight was one where, look, I feel vindicated picking and betting on Zern. Oh, no, I picked Josiane to win, but I feel vindicated having bet on Zern. Fairn, Zara. Zara was very, this looked like a potentially favorable matchup on paper, and then in the first 3 minutes of the fight, I looked at myself and said, you're a fucking genius. And then by like the 4th minute of the fight, I was like, you're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking idiot. No, but Josiane is a problem. She's got that style that's very conducive to winning decisions, like I said, because she doesn't stop moving. She's very much like Andrade. It's just that the physical advantages, the natural advantages were with Zara, and they were so glaring. And the fact that these two were strikers, I thought lends itself to the potential for an upset. And Zara did a lot of work early on. I thought she could have gotten her out of there. I was pretty sure within the first 2 minutes she was going to finish Josiane because she was beating her up, slamming her with kicks, and every punch seemed to land. She was busting her up. But Josiane Nunes is tough as all fuck. She didn't go anywhere. She was visibly frustrated and flustered and really having a hard time dealing with that reach from Zara Fairn. But she kept her composure, kept marching her down, and then after 3.5, 4 minutes, it was obvious to everyone, and certainly to Josiane, that Zara Fairn was compromised. She was tired. And to Zara Fairn's credit, she stood in that fight. I thought she was a little too old and slow to move out, circle out, or clinch up. Clinch up with a fighter that's a foot shorter than her or whatever. But when she was caught up against the cage being pounded on by Josiane Nunes, she didn't seem to have an answer for that, especially as the fight went on. And no doubt that's attributable to her age and her cardio and everything else. But she did hang in there. Not too many fighters could take a beating to Josiane Nunes. Not even though I don't know who gave who the bigger beating, to be honest. But when you're tired, I know it's easier to fold. And Zara Fairn didn't fold. She is a striker. I think she's comfortable striking. And like I said, her losses, in which she got smoked with the Felicia Spencer and Megan Anderson, and both on the ground. So this was a more favorable matchup for her, but still, Josiane Nunes was too much. She's too tough, too relentless, and she hits very fucking hard, which it's obvious that she hits hard when you watch her fight, just like Andrade. So very, conducive to winning decisions, if that's the right fucking word. And she won a decision. She took rounds 2 and 3, and it was just relentless pressure. And the first fight of the evening, Daniel Marcos takes out Simon Oliveira. Simon Oliveira spammed guillotines in his fight against Tony Gravely. Just spammed them like 1,000 guillotines. Nope, I missed this one. How about this one? No, how about this? I'll hold on to it for an hour. And kind of made him look limited, even though he's a versatile fighter and whatever. But, wasn't a good look. And now in this one, standing up, he was caught in a stand-up fight here, wasn't able to get Marcos down. And he looked limited again, spamming spinning attacks, spinning elbows, back fists, whatever the fuck he was going for. But he threw 1,000 of them, just spinning attacks. And those can be good when your opponent doesn't expect it. But when you do it enough where your opponent expects it, they're the opposite of good. It's a big opening. But either way, Marcos just walked him down, stalked him, beat him up, and got him out of there in round 2. It was an excellent performance. He defended takedowns. He was stuffed against the cage and did really well defending there, and then just started beating Simon up. Simon, I thought from the middle of the first round, I knew he was outmatched on his feet, which I thought he would be because he was giving up height and reach. But still, knowing he's a Muay Thai guy first and foremost, I needed to see it. And I saw it. Daniel Marcos is a very good fucking fighter. Really knows how to manage his energy. At least that's how he looked compared to Simon Oliveira, who was just going fucking balls to the wall. But it was evident that Oliveira was uncomfortable in this fight, and it wasn't a good look. And Marcos was very composed, and he was really hurting Simon. And I picked him to win by decision. I was sure he would win by decision because Simon Oliveira has never been finished, and he seems so tough. But in the middle of that first round, I started saying to myself, I think he's going to get him out of here. And it wasn't long before that he did. Excellent UFC debut. Really tough loss for Simon Oliveira now. He's got 2 fights. In my opinion, even though they're good fighters, or at least, Gravely is a bona fide good fighter, he looks limited, and it's not a good look spamming shit, especially when you haven't found success with it once. So, good first fight. Really good performance from Daniel Marcos, and we'll see what happens with Oliveira. I wanted to talk about Jose Aldo, Shogun, and Glover Teixeira retiring. Well, really, Shogun and Glover retired. I'm happy they retired. They're 2 of my favorite fighters of all time. I think, despite their performances and their lack of success, I should say, in their fights tonight, it was really awesome getting a hometown send-off. and seeing the Brazilian love and also the UFC's love, the highlight videos and whatever, even though Shogun was the only one they were really prepared for, retirement wise. But these guys are both living legends. And, I know there are new fans out there that look at this guy Shogun and they don't appreciate like these old guys. Oh, he fought in Pride. Yeah, I'm tired of hearing about fucking Pride. But that's just the way it is. Yeah, like it's tough to appreciate things in context. I remember when I got into the sport, I remember hearing about like, oh, Minoru Suzuki from Pancrase. And I'd be like, all right, yeah, the Pancrase guy. He's got like a dozen losses, whatever. And then, with me, I had the advantage of only having 10 years or so of history to cover. And there weren't a lot of events at all in those 10 years. So it was easier to cover. But right now, if you get into the sport, I could understand how you can't appreciate a guy like Shogun or an older guy. But these guys are living fucking legends. And the love you see is absolutely real. Shogun, and by the way, Shogun, I didn't, in his pre-fight video, I didn't go through his resume, and it's like, it just, there's no point in it. What am I going to talk about? The IFC tournament where he got guillotined by Babalu? I watched that last week, but, that's from 20 years ago and whatever. The fight was really more about his chin and whatever. But still, these guys are much loved. I'm a huge fan of both of them. I'm happy to see them retire. I'm happy to see them with their families, enjoying life. I hope they're both set for life. And I kind of hope they stick around in some form or fashion, in the MMA realm. But I'm glad they're done fighting. And for Jose Aldo, look, Jose Aldo, he's a living legend. He's the fucking man. I'm so happy he's going in the Hall of Fame. But this is one guy where I'd say he could use another fight. That last one against Merab Dvalishvili was dog shit. He's the only guy that could have made Jose look like that. And Jose didn't even look that bad. The whole fight was bad. But it was just, he neutralized him. And that was a shit fight. And I know Jose Aldo is boxing in another month. So, whatever. Maybe I'm just throwing it out there. It occurred to me. I'd love to see him take a retirement fight. But whatever, I know what you're thinking. Just let him be. He wants to fucking relax. And you're asking him for him to be locked in a cage and have to fight one more time. I'm just saying, they left a sour taste in my mouth, and I know his mouth, that fucking Merab fight. And I love Merab, and I thought Merab did what he needed to do. But the fact that Jose Aldo is boxing just, whatever, got me thinking. Anyway, like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.